What's going on, everybody? It's Neil from 2AF. It's the end of the month, so it's time for another gun history / gun story video. Today we're not going to be talking about a gun. We're going to be talking about mags, and specifically the magazines made by Magpul, which of course include and are mostly consumed by the PMag line, but as you can tell from the top right, are not limited to PMags. I do want to say up front, I am not a Magpul historian. I could certainly have some of these details wrong, but I would go out on a limb and say that they're probably going to be more right than they're wrong. While like I said, I am not a Magpul historian. I've been around Magpul for, quite a long time. I'd say really since the beginning. This honestly is like not a Magpul magazine collection. It's just kind of the mags that I've gotten over the years for myself as they've been released. Starting on the top row and going right to left, and then going to the bottom row, going right to left, I kind of tried to put these in historical order or chronological order. And so we'll start here with the GI mag. If you don't already know, before there was a PMag, this was probably sometime around 2004, Magpul started looking into ways that they can improve the GI mag, and that's what you see here. This is a standard GI mag. It's probably made by somebody else. I don't know who. It's not marked for me to notice. But Magpul, of course, put their self-leveling follower in here, which was probably their first, aside from the actual Magpul, which slides onto the bottom of the mag, was a pretty early product that they made for magazines. And then they put the window in here. And then actually, originally they came with, this is a Ranger plate. It didn't come with this originally. It came with what was called an L plate. An L plate was just the short way of saying the lumpy plate. And Lumpy was a guy on AR15.com. I believe he was a law enforcement officer, I believe in Arizona. And on AR15.com, he went by the name Lumpy. And he had the idea of having a Ranger plate made without the loop. So it was just kind of like a solid rubber plate. And Magpul went with that, and they named it the L plate. The L stood for Lumpy. So these original GI window mags that Magpul had modified, originally they came with a Lumpy plate. Honestly, I kind of prefer the Lumpy plates, and so that's probably what happened to this one. I do not shoot this magazine very often because they're kind of rare. There's not a lot of them out there, and I probably took a Lumpy plate off to put it on a mag that I used more frequently than this one, which I do not. But in any case, standard GI mag, comes with the Magpul follower, has a window, originally came with the Magpul Lumpy plate. So Magpul put these out, not very many of them. I don't think that they had a big release. But shortly after that, they kept looking into ways that they can improve the magazine. And that's when they kind of identified limiting factors that were in the aluminum magazine body itself. And as they kept going with that, that's when they realized that maybe they can make a whole new mag that was going to be better than the standard GI mag. Magpul was not the first company to make a polymer magazine, although I would say that they were probably the first company to make a good polymer magazine. In fact, I would go so far to say is not only is it a good magazine, it might, in overall circumstances, overall use, the PMag probably is one of the best mags. I'm not against aluminum GI style mags. I have plenty of these. I use these pretty frequently. But I think in the broadest sense of what you're looking at, I think the PMag is probably the most tested, rugged, and reliable magazine that's on the market. But anyway, moving forward, this was about the 2004 timeframe, and we have that modified GI magazine from Magpul. Moving on from there, we've got some Gen 1 mags here. Now, this one that I'm looking at is, it's got a 2007 marking on it, and this one was a pre-production mag that was sent to me by Rich Fitzpatrick of Magpul to kind of just, test it out, use it, see what we thought. I used it at a bunch of matches. I used it in a bunch of guns. I used it in a bunch of classes. I used a bunch of different types of ammo through it. and it always worked really well. Back then, a friend of ours here locally, a guy named Sluggo, he was like a driver, and he brought a bus over, and he says, man, we should try and run it over with a bus and see what happens. And so we did. We ran it over with a bus, and that's when the magazine cracked here. That was done on purpose. But, you know, the interesting thing about this, and just recently I saw Magpul did a video where they were talking about the history of the PMag, and they said just as long as the magazine kind of holds its dimensions, it'll still feed. And this is true. We wrote on this back in 07 that it still works. If you were to load this magazine and put it in a gun, the magazine well would keep the dimensions, and the magazine still feeds. I don't think it locks back. I think that was the issue with it, but it fed reliably still, even with this big crack in it. Now, this is another magazine. This is another Gen 1 magazine, true Gen 1. And again, it's also marked 2007. This one's been painted. One of the ways you can tell the differences between the Gen 1 magazines is they have kind of this different waffle pattern than you see on the other magazines. And then on the bottom, this is kind of this pattern here where you see the two marks on the top. That kind of became known as the camel toe. So if it has that, that's going to be your Gen 1 magazine. And again, this is around the 2007 time frame. So this was some of the first Magpul Gen 1 PMags that had been sent out. Moving on from there, we've got the Gen 1 20 rounder. Now this one I think is marked, let me see if we can see that there. I think it's marked 2009. So this is a Gen 1 20 rounder. This one is in flat dark earth. You can see they've changed the bottom of the floor plate. It doesn't have that camel toe pattern. So this one is slightly later. So the 20 rounders came in all four of the traditional colors, black, FDE, olive drab, and foliage. There may be some other colors as well, but those would be the four main colors. And of those four main colors, black was by far the one that was produced the most, probably followed by flat dark earth, quite a ways down from that. And then even in fewer numbers would be the foliage and the olive drab. So this is what has become known as the straight 20. If you see people all over Magpul's social media crying for straight 20s, begging for straight 20s, this is what they're asking for. I got to be honest with you, I don't know a lot about the history of it, but I know there was a reason this mag went away in favor of the curved 20, which there is one of them down there. We'll talk about that later. Allegedly, and through testing, it's been shown that the curved 20s is a much better, much more reliable magazine than these straight 20s. These straight 20s are really, you know, they're kind of just nostalgic. I think the big reason people want them is because they can't get them. I think if Magpul came out with them again, that nostalgia of not being able to get them would go away, and we would be left with a magazine that was not as good as your current product, which is the curved 20. But anyway, this is one of the straight 20s you'll hear people talking about. Moving on from there, we've got, this is an EMAG. So these were developed for like the HK416 and possibly some other guns. There were some dimensions with the standard PMag, which kept it from working in an HK416, and I think the English gun as well, which the name is escaping me right now. But in any case, this is another one people are kind of crying for. You'll see these in a couple of different configurations. This is a single window EMAG, so it's got the window on one side but not on the other. It's just kind of like slick on the other side. If I'm not mistaken, I have one of each. I don't have more than that, but I do have one of each. I do believe that the single-sided window EMAG is a little more rare than the double-sided. And then there's other EMAGs that are even more rare than this. I think there's one that has like on the bottom like an English flag, like a Union Jack. I think that's probably one of the rarest ones. I've never had one of those. So these EMAGs were developed to work with the HK416. Again, this is another product you see people kind of crying and clamoring for. But the truth is that Magpul has come quite a long way from this magazine. I'm trying to see the date that's on here. I think this one is dated 09. Yeah, so 09 time frame on this. We have much more improved. As good as these magazines were, and as well as they tested against everything else on the market, the magazines that we have today test even better and through a wider variety of circumstances and environmental conditions than what you see in the past. So yeah, it's kind of cool to have these again because they're a little bit rare and you don't see them that often. But what we have today is actually really a better magazine. So this is a single-sided e-mag. It probably, I think it came with one of these caps. These caps were made to go on the top here. So you'd put this on here and it would hold the rounds. Instead of the rounds, if this was loaded, pushing against the feed lips that are up here, you could put this on here. It would push the rounds down and the pressure would be taken off of the feed lips. I usually wound up keeping them on the floor plate, again, just kind of as a bumper. It would not have come with this separate color cap. I probably put that on there myself. The original ones would have come with a black one. Moving on from there, this is a early Gen 2 magazine. See if I can see. I don't know if I'm going to be able to see the date through here, but this is probably sometime around 2010 or so. So by now I don't know if you can see that in here, but the waffle pattern that we see, it's changed a little bit. It's a different pattern. It's not as deep or as textured as the older ones. Still came with the cap that you can see on here. Again, that pattern on the bottom hasn't really changed. Really only the very early ones had that camel toe. So this is an early Gen 2 PMag. Every time you come out with a new magazine, there's been improvements. They have enough improvements to call for a new gen. And then this was early Gen 2 PMag that came in the white packaging. Here's the markings that you'll find on that packaging here. I wonder if the date is on this. I don't really see it immediately, but in any case, early Gen 2 PMag. Now, the Gen 2 PMags were available both without windows like you see there and with windows like you see here. They were available in all four of your standard colors, black, and this one is flat dark earth, and then of course olive drab and foliage. There were definitely other colors that they had available. They did that UDE or that urban dark earth. They did for LaRue for a long time, and other colors as well. But the most common ones would have been your black, flat dark earth, olive drab, and foliage. So these were really the last times that you were able to get the mags in all of those colors. By the time Gen 3 mags came out, which is coming up real soon, they only did them in black. They also did them in a sand color, which I don't really have here. It's kind of like an off-white color. And then eventually they came out with the MCT, or the medium coyote tan. But anyway, we'll get to that. But this is an early Gen 2 PMag. They still came with those covers like we just talked about. They'll go on the top here and hold them for storage. And then also, like I said, you were able to, for a long time, put them on the bottom as well, and it just kind of served as another bumper. So that's a flat dark earth window early Gen 2 mag. This is kind of an unusual one. Not super rare, but pretty rare. This is a Gen 2 mag that is done in the coyote color. As you can tell from the Bushmaster logo on here, to the best of my knowledge, these only came with the Bushmaster ACR. So when you bought an ACR and it was in that coyote color, you'd have gotten a mag like this. It's a Gen 2 Coyote magazine with the Bushmaster logo on here. So that's another one that you don't see very often. It's not the only one. you were able to get magazines, probably not in this color. They were just available in black, but they had some with Ruger logos that came with Ruger guns. They had some with Smith & Wesson logos that came with Smith & Wesson guns, and probably others. But this one's a little more hard to come by than that, just because it's in that coyote color. And then, like I said, it's got that Bushmaster logo because these really only came with the Bushmaster ACR. And if I'm not mistaken, I'm trying to see it there. I think this one has like a 2010 marking. All right, moving on from there, we've got, so this is what is known as a Johnny Mag. And man, you're probably not going to be able to see this. Yeah, there you go. So there is a Noveske logo on one side. On one side of the logo, it says 1976. On the other side, it says 2013. That's the year this mag came out. Or actually, it probably came out in 2000. No, it was 2013. These really came out when John Noveske died. John Noveske, of course, the founder of Noveske Rifle Works. He died pretty suddenly in 2013, very early. I think it was January. Yes, it was January. And to kind of commemorate that, John had a lot of friends in the industry, pretty widely liked. I can't say universally because I don't know everybody, but man, it seemed like everybody that I knew in the industry definitely liked John, me as well. John and Sherry from Noveske, also the early days at Noveske were pretty fun times, lots going on. And so when John passed away, he was greatly missed. And so, like I said, you got the Noveske logo on one side, and I don't know if I can flip this magazine around in here. Maybe I can. On the other side, you have, let's see if you can see that at all. Can't really see it, but there's the Flaming Pig logo that's on the other side. And so these were known as Johnny Mags. They were not really hard to get at that time. They came with a bunch of Noveske guns. Magpul gave some away. I don't think they really ever sold them, I don't think. But that would be what was known as your Johnny Mag. After that, we've got, so this is a Gen 3. This is the first Gen 3 mag I have here. I don't know what year is on here, but the only thing that really makes this special is this was the 10-year anniversary mag. So after the PMag had been being made for 10 years, if I'm not mistaken, that was probably in like, man, I don't want to guess the wrong date, so I'm not even going to say. But after it had been being made for 10 years, nothing special about this mag at all, except that it has the sticker, the 10-year anniversary sticker inside the bag. And this is still a new and wrapper sealed bag. So that's the 10-year anniversary mag that you would have gotten from Magpul. Not a whole bunch of these around again, but there are some. Because Magpul gave a bunch of them away. That's where I got one. I'm pretty sure I got it at SHOT Show this year, or the year that this came out. Moving on from there, now we've got, these are your new Gen 2 20 rounders. This is not factory. This is a +5 extension that I've added. I like the +5s work. They make them for Gen 2 and 3 mags. Obviously, this is for a Gen 3 mag. This +5 extension will work on any of the Gen 3 mags. You know, the 10s, the 20s, the 30s, the 40s. I really like them on the 20s. I learned this from Alex at Ridgeline. Basically, 20-round mags are really good for when you're using a gun with a bipod. If you got a 30-round mag in there and your bipod is in its shortest position, which is where you will find it most of the time, if you deploy the bipod and you got a 30-round mag in there, the mag is going to hit the ground before the bipod, and the bipod is useless. If you put a 20-round mag in there, it doesn't get in the way of the bipod. And now you can put the 5-round extension on the 20, so you've got 25 rounds. You're only 5 rounds off of your standard 30, and the mag doesn't get in the way of the bipod at all. So that's why I've got this +5 on the bottom of the 20. But in any case, this is your Gen 3 20-round mag. It is a improvement over the straight 20s. I know the straight 20s are what everybody's kind of clamoring for. I mean, and I get it. It's cool. I've got a black one. I've got a tan one. If I saw an OD one or a foliage one, I'd probably scoop them up too just to have them. But the truth is, this is probably a better performing mag. So this is your Gen 3 20-round PMag. And then that brings us to, this is a current mag. If you're going to buy one today, you can still buy the Gen 2 mags, or what they call the MO mags or M2 mags. But this is a Gen 3 mag. This is current production. This is probably 2023 or 2024. This is what you get. And this is probably the most tested, widely used magazine that there has ever been. It's not a perfect magazine, I guess. You know, there's things that can screw up any magazine, but there are probably fewer things and fewer conditions, and it'll take more rounds to cause a malfunction in this Gen 3 PMag than probably any other mag on the market. And again, it's not to say I dislike other mags. I have, own, and use plenty of other mags. I'm not like a PMag purist or anything like that, but I do at the same time think it's pretty amazing how much work, how much testing, and how many rounds Magpul has put in to their family of magazines, kind of culminating with this Gen 3 mag. Now, I do not have one of the new T-mags or translucent mags yet. I hope to have one of those shortly to use as well, more than one actually. But, you know, it's something to consider is that, you know, a lot of people, when they introduced or at least announced that T-mag, that it was kind of in an olive drab color, people were like, well, we want it to be clear. You know, Magpul, and that includes these mags here. I mentioned earlier, Magpul, when they did away with the flat dark earth and the olive drab and the foliage magazines, the reason they did away with them is those colored magazines never performed as well over time in as many conditions as the black magazine. And so when they went away from the Gen 2 into the Gen 3, that was really why all those colors went away, is because they were not as good or reliable or as durable over time and through as many conditions as the black magazine. And it wasn't until they came out with the medium coyote tan mag, which, man, I don't have one of those. Let me get one. Hold on. So here's your medium coyote tan magazine. It wasn't until they came out with these that one of the colored mags was substantially better than the other colored mags before. So I am positive that that green translucent color, the reason they went with that is because it had something to do with the overall durability and reliability of the magazine. So you can ask for and you can want, and maybe you'll even get a different color, but I'm pretty sure the reason they went with that color to begin with is because it's what tested the best. And kind of, I think, I don't want to say aesthetics and colors are unimportant. I always say that to people. People will say that all the time. It's not important what the color is. You know, it may not be really important, but it's a little important. You know, if it wasn't important, go ahead and put like an orange or a pink or a purple mag on your gun. You're not going to buy one of those, even though it may last just as long, or at least most people won't. So color isn't unimportant. It may not be the most important thing. It might not even be one of the top 10 most important things, but I think it is important to some people. So you may wind up with a different color, but I would rest assured that the reason they picked the color that they did is because that is what is going to deliver. That's how they're going to be able to deliver to you the best product that they can. So again, that's all I really got for you today. We talked a lot about magazines and their history with Magpul, starting with that early GI window mag, moving through to the Gen 1 mags, the Gen 1 straight 20, the single window E mag, early Gen 2 mag. We've got a Gen 2 flat dark earth window mag here, the Gen 2 Coyote P mag that came with the Bushmaster ACR, your Johnny mag over here, 10-year mag, the new Gen 3 20 rounder, and then finally with the Gen 3 mag that's over here. Thanks for joining us. I hope you enjoyed looking at all these different Magpul PMags. Again, it's Neil from 2AF. Don't forget to get signed up for email notifications on the website. That always gives you early access to things that are coming in here, things that are going out, and things that are going on around the warehouse here. If I can help with anything, always be in touch. If anybody is starting to look at these mags, I know that there's mag collectors out there. As many of these magazines as I have, I can't really say I'm not really a collector, although I can't say I don't collect them at all, because obviously I do. It's more a result of me not really selling much of my own stuff and pack ratting a lot of this stuff. But none of this stuff is available, I'm afraid to say, except for the current production stuff you see over here. You need any of that, just let us know. Neil at 2af.com. You can call or text 904-593-6922. Check out 2af.com. Get signed up for emails. And man, take a look for us on Twitter / the new name X or YouTube. You can find us at 2af_COM. The Instagram page is still frozen right now. It's not gone, but it's just under review for almost 2 weeks now. I'm a little tired of it, putting energy in over there. And like I said, look for us on YouTube and X. We hope to see you. All right, man. Take care.